I say to people, look, I help you win more of your dream clients. But quite often I'll hear people say, I'm looking for an introduction to anyone who needs my services. And I'm like, really? Do you really? And some of the easy ways that I'll describe, what about people who are a pain in the backside? Do you want people, when you look at your phone and you see it ringing, go, oh, I don't want to speak to them? But we get those. When we're just after the money, we take on any clients. If ever you've wondered why do some hospitality or food and beverage companies thrive and others struggle, there's probably a hidden secret. And that is Terry Campbell. Hi, Terry. Nice to meet you.
And you, Jamie. Nice to meet you.
So we've just been having a really interesting conversation about all the stuff that you do, and I likened you to if I was a professional athlete, I would have a performance coach. And in the F&B sector, the hospitality world, businesses need some help. Their expertise is in delivering great food and great service, not necessarily in making that as profitable as it can be. And that's where you come in, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, we work with lots of manufacturers, lots of F&B businesses that are phenomenal at what they do, but it's the bits in the background that we really help with. It's route to market. Maybe we can help you buy your product slightly better, slightly more ethically, or maybe closer to home, so that saves you a little bit of money there. If you're a manufacturer, we can help get you into the right areas so your product has access to more people, in terms of through buying groups and wholesalers and direct to the larger businesses out there. And we don't just sort of give you a list and say off you go do it. We do it with you, not for you, but with you. We will go to exhibitions with you. We'll get involved. We'll go to meetings. We're involved in your business. We're not just there going, if I was you, I would do this. So let's go do this together.
I'm smiling because you were teasing the other day on a call that we were on. Anybody that knows me knows that I like curry. And when you say that you do it with you, what were you doing the other day?
Well, not just the other day, it's twice now. And actually we've got some coming up tomorrow as well. So we do the MPD as well. So these manufacturers and producers are, producing phenomenal food. But is it right for food service? Are they putting too much into it? Can we scale that back a little bit? So we do a lot of MPD. So the other day we as a group, so the four of us, had the real arduous task of testing 12 different curries and 12 different Indian snacks. 50 of each of those as well. So we did our best. We didn't quite, finish it all off, but we did our best. But it's wonderful. You get to see the passion of the people that are producing these things come through in what they do and when they're talking about it. So we always ask them to tell us about each product as we're testing it.
Yeah,
you really get to see, feel their passion and why they do it through that. And yeah, it's a tough job. Yesterday was pizzas and pies. It's awful.
So when people say, when people say you've got your finger in lots of pies, quite literally you do.
Quite literally, yeah. Yeah,
I love that. So
we like to work right across the spectrum, food and beverage, anything and everything, and it's just a great place. So many passionate people in our industry, and it's just great to be able to support them, to be that performance coach, to say, right, well, how can we take your product to the masses? How can we help you grow your business?
And I know I've got friends involved in hospitality. It's one of the first sectors that gets impacted when consumer spending drops. Hospitality is the first to hit. Recruiting people is harder. Energy costs has a disproportionate impact on their businesses, and they've been hit left, right, and centre. And as we record this now, we've just had the announcement that they're reducing some of the business rate relief for hospitality. So having someone like you that can work to help them improve quality, be more ethical and sustainable, and increase profitability, why would somebody not? They should be queuing up to knock on your door.
Oh, hopefully, yeah. But and then the way I look at it is that then allows them to do the bit they're great at.
Yeah.
they produce great food. They deliver phenomenal service. The stuff in the background, the stuff that's maybe not as exciting, that's the bit that we deal with. Let's look at logistics. Let's look at supply chain. All quite boring subjects in the grand scheme of things when you're talking MPD, tasting food, delivering service. But it's a really, really important element of improving business, simplifying business in some cases,
Yeah.
but just improving profitability and giving back some time.
Okay. I like numbers, and you shared the other day an example of a client that you'd worked with recently that's a hotel chain. And I can't imagine the total figure, but you shared that you saved them £300,000 a year just on their bacon purchases. Just tell us, without telling us who the client is, but just give a bit of
Yeah.
background to that story.
So they bought their bacon from a supplier for many, many years. That loyalty had created trust, one, which is massive in the industry. They loved the product. They delivered the product on time. They never let them down. So they never really looked at alternatives. But as we know, costs increase. They called upon us and said, look, we'd like you to take a look at our breakfast range and see if there's anything we can do there. So we went out to the market. We looked at 6 different suppliers. We threw in a few curveballs as well. So on the bacon, it wasn't just a like for like. We threw in some smoked, we threw in some streaky bacon as well, just to gauge sort of opinion within the chef, from the chefs, the exec chefs, and board level obviously as well. So we got 6 suppliers, different types of bacon from those different suppliers, including the existing. We borrowed one of the kitchens in the hotel, so we could cook it exactly like they would do it, because there's no point us cooking it differently because you're not getting a like-for-like product. And we blind taste tested it with the exec chefs, the chefs, and the board members. So stick it on a scorecard, tell us which ones you like, tell us why you like it, tell us why you don't like the ones you don't like, and then let's just see where it all came out. And the wonderful thing about this particular project, not only the fact that we saved them over £300,000, which is huge, it's wonderful to talk about, but it was actually from the same supplier. So nothing changed. So they still had that trust, they still had that reliability, they still had all the things they loved about that supplier, just a slightly different product that was cheaper.
Yeah.
And that is win-win. That's such a perfect scenario for us as a business and for the business that we're working with, because nothing changed.
Yeah.
Other than a product code ultimately. So that's the bit that we do. We do lots of benchmarking, because if you don't know, you don't know. And you do get comfortable with suppliers. You do build relationships, because business is about building relationships, and it's not just about product. It is about trust in delivery, and trust if something goes wrong, they're going to put it right. Yeah. But first and foremost, we'd always try and work with the existing supply chain, always, because of those relationships and all those things I've just mentioned. But if it's not possible, then we'll find somebody that we're equally comfortable that will deliver all those things that the existing supplier would do. And it's about working with the customer, so that, board level, exec chefs and chefs, does it cook like you want it to cook? Does it take the same amount of time? So it's not just a product. Is it impacting you from a kitchen perspective as well, and therefore a guest perspective?
So I met someone recently who has an ice cream business, and they're wanting to grow their business and probably make it more profitable. If I was to introduce you to them, what would I say would be your approach? So when you meet somebody for the first time that you've never done business with, what do you do?
It's let me come and look. Let me come and take a look at what you do. Let me analyze everything from how you manufacture, what your ingredients, where you buy your ingredients from, what does your manufacturing look like, and what does your supply chain look like. Let me just sit down and go through that initial sort of overall audit. And then I can say, well, these things are wonderful. Might be able to save you a few pounds here and there on ingredient rather. A few little tweaks to the way you manufacture. and also looking at things like certification. So, do you have the right certification to be able to take your product into those bigger businesses, into the food service market, into wholesalers and retailers? And wholesalers will want different types of certification. And from my perspective, it's making sure you get the right one that's not going to cost you tens of thousands of pounds that you don't need.
Yeah.
But let's look at the ones that you do need to take you to that next stage. And eventually you may need that one that's going to cost you £10,000, £20,000, but your business will be in a position to afford it and to do it at that point. So we look at, an initial audit. I don't particularly like the phrase, but an overview of your business.
Like a
These are the sectors where
benchmarking.
we think we can help you.
So it's like a benchmarking exercise.
A benchmarking exercise, yeah. This is where we think you can help you. This is where we believe, is the roadmap where you can take your business to get it there. And we'd love to go on that journey with you. If not, then brilliant. We've helped you get to that point where you know where you need to take it. And we stay in touch. And if we can help on an ad hoc basis, we will. But we'd obviously prefer to be part of their business on a more collaborative working.
And I guess that's where the name of your business comes from, doesn't it? What's your business called?
So my overall business, or this particular side of what I do?
This side of it.
So this is Qantas PSM.
And the PSM
is that side of it.
And what does PSM stand for?
PSM is purchasing, sales, and marketing. So we cover all those aspects. So it's about looking at how you're purchasing. Supply chain falls under that, but we also then help you sell that product and develop that, the business development side of it. So we will go and see end users, the large chains of hotels and restaurants and maybe franchise businesses, and introduce your product. We'll sit there. We'll go through the MPD with that particular company and say, we have all these products from this particular supplier. What's your supply chain like? Where are you buying from at the minute? And then we can go back to that wholesaler supply chain and say, this particular company wants to take this product. We need to put it through you. So it's not just going from manufacture into wholesale. We're actually doing the full circle of going out to the customer as well, the end user, and saying, this is a phenomenal product. You need to be buying it. Makes it easier for us to sell it into wholesale as well, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it's a great approach. It's one we've always used. It's push pull, we call it. So we're pushing it into wholesale and pulling in the other direction from an end user. It sounds very computer-like, doesn't it? But yeah, that the end customer.
Yeah. Okay. So you help people ultimately increase their reach and scale the business whilst having a keen eye on the bottom line.
Yes.
I feel like the world's going full circle. So when we grew up, we're of a certain age, everything was bought locally and produced locally.
Yeah.
And then we went to sort of national distribution and centralization. And now it seems to be coming full circle that people want to buy locally sourced products. How does that fit in your world? Because the cost cutting side of things went to national distribution, and now people are wanting to have sustainably sourced products as well, aren't they?
They are, yeah. So from the manufacturer's point of view, we will try and introduce them to buying groups that will work with maybe up to 60, 70 wholesalers. So that product will go into 60 or 70 wholesalers that is available as close as possible to that end user customer. So they're not having to travel too far. And the product has to travel ultimately.
Yeah.
But if you're having to ship something from, let's say, Scotland to London twice a week, then somebody's got to foot the bill for that. And the fuel costs have gone through the roof, as we know. So 20 years ago wasn't a problem because fuel was cheap. But now someone's got to foot the bill for that on top of rising food costs anyway. So it's better to have that product as close to that end purchase as possible. So we work with like I said, the wholesale groups and the national and semi-national buyers to get that product as close to the end user as possible.
And are people coming to you to improve the environmental impact of their purchases?
Yeah, definitely. We look at it's not just the food we look at. We look at packaging. Are you buying the right packaging? Is it recyclable or is it recycled?
Yeah.
Which is ideal. Reducing plastics in terms of shipping and packaging is a big thing we look at. So how can we be as ethical and sustainable as possible in what you're doing without it having an impact on your bottom line?
Okay. Now, coming on to ethical, then you have another business, don't you, involved in beverages?
Yes.
You want to tell us a bit about that? What's it called first?
It's called Kinda Collective. So it's a coffee retailer and wholesaler. And the reason it's called Kinda Collective is the whole premise when I decided to do it, or we decided to do it as a small group of business people, I suppose, was to do business better. I've worked in lots of businesses where it's been a little bit cutthroat and it's been a little bit selfish. Maybe it's not it's not about. For me, I've always had this and maybe it's a little bit blue sky. I don't know, but I've always thought if we're all doing well, then the business is better. It's not about me; it's about the business, and it's about everybody getting something out of it. And maybe I am a bit fanciful. I don't know, but that's just how I view life and the world. So that's what I wanted to do with Kinda. So we donate 10% of all profits to community projects, ones that are genuinely making a difference to people's lives in local communities. But we didn't want it just to be a financial contribution because that feels a little bit like it's just a hook to get somebody to buy it. So we also made a commitment to actually get out there and get involved in community projects, give our time up, give back to the community and to people that need it. So recently, back end of last year and into the beginning of this year, through the Princess Diana Awards, I was a workplace mentor in a school with 15 to 16-year-old, worked with 15 to 16-year-old students who didn't really know much about what to expect when they leave school and what the working world really looks like. Because ultimately, who tells them?
Yeah.
Who's got that knowledge and who can sort of help them understand what skills they have now that will translate into the working world? And it was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. I got so much from it. Giving that time up was so worthwhile. I learned so much from them. As the next generation coming through, what their thought process is like, what they're looking to do, what their views on the world, which is very different to ours, and I suppose the ambition that they have. It's great to see that the ambition. It's not been beaten out of them yet, I suppose. I want to be this and I want to do that, and then that's brilliant. So how can I help you focus that?
Yeah.
Let's look at how you can maybe volunteer before you leave school to get some experience of that, which will help you then ideally land a job in that sector. Or here's a place to start that could eventually get you to where you want to be. So, really drilling into what their interests are, what they want to achieve in life, and then pointing them in the right direction. And also just viewing them and how they are. One particular student was just incredibly engaging. He taught you, you wanted to listen. And I think in a school environment, that's maybe not the ideal situation. But in a work environment, he'll flourish. He'll do so well because he's engaging. And it's just explaining that to them. You've got this ability to do this. That's a great skill to have when you go into the workplace. Don't let the environment you're in now change the way you are.
Yeah.
And then we helped him with, some of the more useful things like how to write a CV. We did a little community project and we split them up into groups, as in working groups. So there'd be an ops team, a marketing team, a strategy team. So they had to come up with a community project all by themselves. Really difficult not to sort of get involved and do it for them with them. But they were brilliant. They came up with this idea to have a peer-to-peer mental health walking group that was at lunchtimes for their age group, and they came up with a name which was Walkie Talkie, which I think is quite ingenious. But it was just a way for them to get out of that environment, chat between themselves about the issues that that are important to them, and more often than not, they get the right answers from the people that are also experiencing those same issues. So it's just a phenomenal idea. And the group I had to pitch to the senior leadership team, and they absolutely blew me away. How they presented themselves, really professionally. They absolutely nailed the presentation. But more than that, when it came to the questions at the end, which is always the hard part, you've got to think on your feet, and you've got to. I think their passion for that project really came across because they had the answers and they knew what they wanted to achieve with it. And yeah, they absolutely, they blew me away. They were phenomenal, and like I say, I got so much from that, and probably more than they got, maybe. But just a great experience, and that's why we wanted to do it. It's not the coffee business is a conduit for us to do good.
Yeah,
that's the way we wanted to set that business up, and that's the way we wanted that to work.
And kinda is spelled, so it's KINDA rather than ER, the Kinda Collective, isn't it? Kindacollective.co.uk is the website if someone wants to go and have a look. And I'm not a huge, so whilst I'll have a coffee when I'm out, I don't really make it at home. I'm a tea drinker, but it's a great gift for people. So if you're looking to send somebody a gift, what a thoughtful gift where you're actually making a difference.
Yeah, 100%. You're making a difference. And we also wanted to make it easy for people as well. So not everybody's got a coffee machine at home. Not everybody has, a filter machine. They might just have a cafetiere or anything. So we give the customer that option to buy whatever grind they want for their, for what they've got at home. So if it's whole bean and they've got a coffee machine, that's fine. Everything, and everything in between we cover. We also roast to order. 2 reasons for that is you're getting your coffee super fresh. So coffee will start to go stale after about 4 weeks. So the stuff you're buying from the supermarket, as good as it is, and it's there's levels of quality and there's some great stuff out there. It's past its peak after 4 weeks. So our stuff is super fresh, and you can taste it. You get a deeper crema, which is the little bit of foamy bit on the top, and that's where a lot of the flavour and the aroma comes from. But not only that, it's roast to order, so there's no waste. All our labels are printed at source, so we don't have reams and reams of labels just sat on shelves. Everything is done per order, so nothing is thrown away.
That sounds like a great business.
It's lovely. And you get to try coffee every day. On top of the curries and the pies and everything else we've talked about. Wake up to my own coffee every day. What more do you need?
So, like, for my world, all you would need is a gin distillery and a brewery that did great IPAs.
Yeah. Well, actually, and I can't talk too much about it because we are, again, in the very early stages. I have just become a co-founder of a alcohol subscription business.
Wow, congratulations.
But it's an education business as well. So we're going to do the education piece as well as being able to buy products that you maybe not going to be able to get from the supermarket. But talk about, it's not a booze cruise. It's more of an appreciation of the finer things in the alcohol world.
I like it. Oh, I think we're going to be good friends, Terry. I definitely think we are. So I need to invite you over for a curry at my friend's restaurant. Nagendra's got, I think, the best Indian in the area. So I'm going to put that to the test then. One of the other things that we touched on right at the very start was you are a values-led business. And there's a great synergy between that and Circle Networks. And I think that's what's helped you get involved in Circle Networks. Tell us about values in your business and the relationships that you have.
So we're very much about, we want to be part of your business. We don't just want to give you the tools and go, off you go do it. We want to really immerse ourselves in what you do. Your core values have to align with ours. We want to work with people of a similar mindset and a similar passion for what we're trying to achieve. And let's be honest, business is better when you like the people you're working with. And it's a silly thing to say, and it seems like
Well,
a silly thing to say, but it's so true.
it's not
It's so
though.
true.
It's not. It took me right. I say to people, look, I help you win more of your dream clients, but quite often I'll hear people say, I'm looking for an introduction to anyone who needs my services. And I'm like, really? Do you really? And some of the easy ways that I'll describe it. What about people who are a pain in the backside? Do you want people when you look at your phone and you see it ringing, oh, I don't want to speak to them.
Yeah.
But we get those when we're just after the money. We take on any
Yeah.
clients, then we don't like. So you want people where you go, oh, it's Terry. Hey, how are you doing? Not, oh, it's Terry. I don't want to speak to him.
100%. And
So
we've turned clients away because of that.
that is the interesting bit for me, because I think when we start to get choosy about who we work with, then we're demonstrating that we're true to our values.
Yeah. 100%.
I
And we've
like
done it recently with a couple of companies, and it's difficult. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's really difficult to say, I don't want your money. I don't want to, because ultimately we still think we could probably help them to a degree. But also there's been an odd occasion where we think, I can't help you.
yeah,
There's nothing I can do for your business, so I'm not going to take your money. And again, that's just the right thing to do, because I suppose I would hope somebody would do that for me too. So, you know what, Terry, you're doing great things. You don't need me. That just isn't that, wouldn't that be wonderful to hear that from
yes,
somebody? And I
yeah.
just think that's the way I want to do business, and that's the way I do business, and that's the whole reason why I became self-employed, because it allows me to make those decisions.
Going back to the full circle story that I shared earlier, um, you shared an example of how you had an introduction from someone that took you right back to your youth the other day and back into the next town. So what did you do growing up? What was your passion?
My passion was football. From being 5 years old, I was playing in my brother's team, who was 2 years older than me. I was always a little bit bigger than him, so I kind of got away with it a little bit. So from 5 years old, I was playing under nines football, and right through to December, really last year, when I finally decided that it was time to stop. Football has been a huge part of my life, and I've still kept my boots though, just in case,
Well, you never know. You might
So,
follow in your dad's footsteps.
well, indeed, yeah. I'll come back to that because it's a great story, a wonderful story. So yeah, so I played for lots of different teams around in and around the Yorkshire area, and actually in the village I'm living in now was one of the teams I played for. I didn't live here at the time, but I played for the local team here, with a chap called Paul, who he he was around for a few years and then he disappeared. I didn't know why. It obviously gone off to do different things for work or whatever. But yeah, I got introduced to Ed last week, who is involved in a drinks business, and as well as various other things. But a drinks business is why we
Yeah.
got the introduction. And we were chatting away, and a lovely guy. Again, one of those people there where you think, yeah, I could work with you. I honestly don't think I can do anything with the drinks business, but he's just a lovely guy to know. And some of the other things he does, which is investing in growing businesses, and very much a similar outlook of, if I like it and I think we can do something with it, then yeah, we'll get involved. If I don't, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, lovely introduction to have somebody with a similar mindset. But we were talking about one of his business partners, because he was talking about where we were from, and he said, "Oh yeah, one of my business partners is from Leeds. Good people in Leeds," which obviously I agreed with. Um, and we chatted away, and I didn't think much about it. Came off the call, and as you do, I went and had a look at Ed's LinkedIn profile, and I thought, "Oh, I wonder who that chap is, and see who else he's connected to that maybe that I might know." And he was talking about his business partner had been to America, helped set up this business, and then they sold out for hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's just recently come back to Leeds. Lo and behold, it's Paul that I used to play football with in this village where I live now, who's actually moved back to the next village down the road, which is 3 miles away. So he's gone halfway across the world to come back. We haven't spoken for, 15, 16 years, I would think. And I still haven't spoken to him yet. I need to get his details from Ed. But yeah, small world
It
to
is.
go through Hampshire through a business introduction, all the way back to a chap that I used to play football with. It's
And
wonderful.
that's one of the things that I love about our network, how we bring people together,
Yeah.
and it is completing the circle for a lot of people with just reuniting you sometimes with people that you already know, but you just lost touch with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful. And I've always been very wary of networking groups. I've tried a few in the past. I've always found them to be a little bit selfish. Pitch, pitch, pitch. This is what I'm about. This is what I want. Not really interested in listening to what you want. So, if I'm being honest, Jamie, I was a little bit skeptical when I first got introduced to you guys as well. Um, but it was such a great first meeting, the franchise meeting. It wasn't pitchy. I met some people. I saw people I've not spoken to for a few years.
Yeah.
Shirley being one of them. I've known Shirley for 20 years, but we've probably not spoken for 2 or 3 years. So it was great to see Shirley in there. But it was just more relaxed. It just fit with my core values. It was about the people. It wasn't about what they were selling or what they were, even particularly, what business they were involved in. It's like, get to know the person first. Get to know the person first and then see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's how we do business. That's how we live our lives. We get to know people. We like them. They become friends. We don't. We go our separate ways. And that why shouldn't business be like that? And I want my business to be like that. And yeah, hats off to you. That you've kind of ticked all the boxes for me in that sense, because I've met some incredibly interesting people already after 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we may not do business together for 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, but I know those people are there to be able to say, actually, you need to speak to such and such a person.
Yes.
Because they're great. And I know they're great because I've spent that time with them to get to know them and understand them. And I don't want to give somebody my customers that I think might let them down.
Yeah.
That's the important bit.
That's strategic networking, Terry.
Yeah.
Doing it for the long term, for the right reasons, and building your network rather than going networking. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of just going networking, going to get, rather than going to build a network and see how you can help others, the givers mentality. And you definitely fall into that givers mentality because you turn up cheery. You're not asking for anything. You're almost embarrassed to ask for anything because I've asked you a few times, what can I do to help you? I'm not here for me. I just want to come along and contribute. And I think that's the culture that we're building within Circle Networks, which is shining through.
Yeah. And I'm don't get me wrong, I'm having conversations outside of the weekly calls with 3 or 4 people, and it's wonderful. And there will be slow burners because it's about getting to know them and understand them. But there's been some really good people there.
Yeah,
and really interesting people. Paul yesterday just blew my mind, so I'm really looking forward to catching up with him next week.
Yeah, I'm really pleased that Chris launched the franchise group that we've got now. And invited you along, because otherwise we wouldn't have known each other, would we?
Very true. Yeah, and the franchise world is a very close world. So there's a lot of people that know one another, but maybe not people like me who do the bits that I do within that area. So it's been great so far, and I can't knock it. And it's just getting to know like-minded people, which is the important bit.
Someone shared with me the other day. I said, "What have you got out of Circle Networks?" What I wanted her to say was, it was Elsa Stinson that I was talking about. I know that her business has quadrupled over the last 2 years that she's been involved in Circle Networks, and she said it's the friendship and support. That's what I get out of it. And I was wanting this number, and she was like, "It's the camaraderie, it's the people that help me, because running a business isn't easy."
Yeah.
And that's what she wanted. Right, just to wrap up, we left people hanging.
We did.
About your dad.
Yes.
Share that story.
So it's a great story. My dad was my coach when I was young, so he's been part of my football journey forever. Got me into football, kept me in football, taught me how to play football, and been there rain or shine for every single game, and a lot of rain, as you can imagine, up here in Leeds. So I I've done that for my son as well. So he's gone on to play football, and he made it to sort of academy level. So he'd sort of beaten all of us and got to that next stage, I suppose, and sort of topped the charts until very recently. So my dad, who's 71 years old, 72 next week, um, retired. And I thought this is a man that would never retire. He's been my inspiration, not in everything in life. And I hope you don't watch this because we're not, we don't like to get mushy, but he's why I am who I am.
Yeah.
He's been an inspiration in life, in business. He's the guy I phone on a night when I've had a bad day and I'm driving back and it's, Dad, I just want to vent at somebody and get some understanding and somebody else's thought process. He's always been the guy there for me. And he retired, and I thought, well, what's he going to do with his time? He's always worked. He's just a workaholic. But he got into walking football. And from walking football, he met a chap that ran the Cambridge over 65 football team. Proper football. 11 aside, full game, full contact. So he went along, loved it, and from there got invited to trial for the England over 70s. He did. He went along, played a few games, and then last year they announced they were going to go to the World Cup. So he trained. He went to the gym every morning. He did extra sessions. I mean, he really threw himself into it and got himself in the squad. He was absolutely ecstatic. He's got visions of playing in Rio or going to Argentina or maybe Italy. Turns out it was in North Wales, but he was there. He represented England. He did it. And they played 7 games in 3 days, 7
Wow.
1 hour long games in 3 games, 70-year-old. And some 75, 76-year-olds as well. And albeit they sort of fell over at the semi-final because they didn't quite have enough players to field because a few of them were injured. But he got an England cap. An actual official England cap. And I mean, what an incredibly proud moment. But
I'll bet.
to go full circle and be his supporter when he supported me all them years was just wonderful. I still give him a little bit of critique like he did to me, I suppose, to get my own back. But yeah, so this week also, he's just found out that he's made the squad for this year's World Cup as well.
That's amazing.
Which is in Japan. So he's flying out to Japan in October for 2 weeks to represent England in the World Cup.
Wow.
Awesome.
I bet you are you going?
No.
No?
Well, I say no, maybe. I might. I probably will.
It's the Japan. So another friend of mine has just moved from Dubai to Japan, and he's out there for the expo this year. So it's a big year in Japan this year.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. He's like a teenager again. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to have that something that's now his focus, I suppose, and he's completely thrown himself into it. He's fitter than he's been. He's always kept himself in good shape, but he's fit than he's been for a long, long time. And it's just amazing. I don't know. Just super proud of him. He's an amazing achievement.
I love that. And I feel like this is the perfect time to wrap up now. So this has been a feel-good episode of everything going full circle.
Indeed. Thank you.
If someone wants to connect with you to find out a bit more about you or follow up on something that you might have said that's piqued their interest, and we said before that LinkedIn is the best place to do that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a website because I don't like to shout too much about myself. I like to work in the background. So LinkedIn's a perfect place.
Okay. I'll share your LinkedIn profile link in the show notes. So anybody that's listening, just click on the show notes, connect with Terry Campbell. How do you spell Campbell? Just in case anyone struggles.
CAMPBELL.
Brilliant. Right. Thank you very much, Terry.
You're welcome.
There was some stuff that we talked about at the start that we couldn't talk about in the episode. So I'm looking forward to doing that again at some point in the future.
I'll tell you what, we'll announce it on here.
I'd love to. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.